Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Rum. Today we are looking at the Omega Speedmaster Professional. Now, I have done a video on this in the past, but specifically I'm doing this video now because I did a video on the Pagani design Speedmaster homage, and I want to do a good video for the Omega, a good video for the Pagani design. Then I want to do a comparison side by side on whether or not it's good enough to get the Pagani design as a first watch before you lay down the money for the Omega Speedmaster. Well, first, let's just get into the Omega Speedmaster. Now, I'm going to do a brief history on the Omega Speedmaster, then a quick review, do some good macro shots, and then we'll end the video, and then I'll do a comparison in a later video. Now, the Speedmaster's history goes back to 1957 when it was introduced as a sports and racing chronograph. Now, the name Speedmaster was chosen because of its tachymeter style bezel. It was also an extremely popular watch used in racing. Now, following Omega's sort of naming of their watches, like the Seamaster and the Railmaster, the Speedmaster and the Railmaster originally were part of the Seamaster's brand. If you can see sort of where I'm going with the Seamaster as a dive watch, the Speedmaster as a racing watch. Now, fast forward to what solidified Omega in history, and that was, of course, the space race. Now, beginning in about 1962, NASA anonymously purchased a series of chronographs from different brands with the task of finding the best watch available for their astronauts to wear in space. Really love the history of this brand. Now, out of the 6 watches, only 3 chronographs successfully survived this pre-selection phase. Now, they would say that the finalists were then subjected to 11 of the most rigorous tests endured by any watch in history. And of course, that's because it needs to be reliable in the most extreme environments known to man, which is space. Now, these tests consisted of high and low pressures, vibration testing, G-force testing, humidity, pressure, acceleration, decompression, atmospheric, and acoustic testing, all things you may find in space. On March 1st, 1965, the test results were then completed, and only the Omega Speedmaster passed. At that time, the testers wrote, operational and environmental tests of the 3 selected chronographs have been completed, and as a result of the test, Omega chronographs have been calibrated and issued to 3 members of the Gemini Titan III crews. So it was the only watch chosen out of all of them and given to their astronauts because of its reliability. Now, this is where the official space watch name came from. Now, this watch that I have here is a 1970s Omega Speedmaster Professional. It's the closest that I could get historically to that time that I could really get my hands on. But honestly, even a watch built in the 1970s, you can see that the construction is absolutely solid, lasting all these decades with not one question about its historical value, its timeless design, or its brand name. Even over 50 years later, this watch is spot on with the time, featuring a caliber manual winding 861, a true workhorse movement. This creates a layout offering 3 subdials, the standard seconds at the 9 o'clock, a minutes indicator at the 3 o'clock, and an hours indicator at the 6 o'clock. These are all for the chronograph functions. Now, the pushers themselves on the movement are very positive with their feedback, offering a really very assurable click that the chronograph is engaged every single time you press that pusher. Then the other pusher is to reset. The case of the watch is finished extremely nicely with a mix of both brushed and high polishing with sharp edges and clean lines. The case back is a screw down with 50 meters of water resistance. Now, that being said, even though this has just been serviced, I probably wouldn't use this in any type of water situation. With most vintage watches, even if the gaskets and the seals and the movement has all been serviced, I still would treat it more delicate than its modern equivalent. So even though it has 50 meters of water resistance, please do not. Now, of course, on the back, it's written flight qualified by NASA for all manned space missions along the top, and along the bottom has the words, "the first watch worn on the moon." This is truly why it's called the Moon Watch. Now on top, covering the dial, is a Hesalite crystal, or basically like a plexiglass crystal. Now this can scratch very easily, but on the opposite end, like sapphire is great for scratch resistance, but the issue is if there's impact, then the sapphire can shatter, whereas Hesalite or plexiglass, basically what happens is as it's impacted, it may gouge, it may scratch, but it sort of bends and concaves to allow a lot of cushion so it doesn't shatter, which the last thing you want in space is a crystal to shatter and go everywhere. Now the case on this is a 42 millimeter in diameter case, which was large for the time, but is perfect for today's watch. Now the watch fits comfortably on my 7¼ inch wrist and wears rather light on this vintage leather strap from, yes, you guessed it, Chase Straps, which is my very own personal brand of watch straps coming soon. I do own the domain. I'm building the website right now, but I have a massive inventory of my own watch straps I will be selling in the future. Now, overall, this watch punches very high for its value and offers not only a lot in historical value, but classic styling. Next to another watch brand such as Rolex, this watch has not only a name recognition, but offers something a little more for the watch geek. That is the technical engineering. A watch that is not only tough, but all around, I would say, a perfect watch. Even 50, 60, 70 years later, this watch can be worn today as a modern equivalent. Yes, could there be better water resistance? Of course, but this is not limited to just like a dive watch, sort of like the Submariner, but a racing watch that made its way into space, which is the harshest environment ever known to man. Now, if you guys have any other watches that you want to mention as being better, leave them down in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. And yes, I am completely aware of the Bulova Lunar Pilot. That is something that, of course, people are going to mention, which is fine. So come up with something else down in the comments. Now, if you like videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment on the content you guys would like to see on this channel. I have a lot of videos coming up in the future. The next video is going to be a comparison video of both the Pagani design as well as the Omega together, side-by-side comparisons, and we're going to look at the details of the construction, details of the movement. Now, one is a manual wind movement, a Swiss caliber, like I said, 861, and the other one is a Seiko Mega Quartz. So, of course, there are definitely differences, but I think that it is a fair comparison. Now, make sure you guys are hitting that notification bell so you can be notified when I drop that next video. Until next time.